Did you know from 1997 until 2009, scientists were following 23,000 premenopausal African American women to research their relationship between uterine fibroid tumors, hair products, and hair relaxers? Until recently, there's been very little media attention and very little research done on the subject. But that's all starting to change. Before I respond, I'd like to show you a very quick clip of my own interview with Fox News 26 on the subject of uterine fibroid tumors and hair relaxers.
But now a new study from Boston University finds evidence linking hair relaxer to uterine fibroid tumors and early puberty.
It used to be a joke that beauty suffers, but not to the point of death.
Tamika Fletcher owns Natural Resources, a salon catering to girls and women embracing the trend of natural hair.
This is the worst.
Fletcher says her scalp used to look like these pictures, full of chemical burns and bald spots.
You know, this is one of the few industries that's not regulated by the FDA. And so if you have the wild, wild west of, hair care products, everybody's kind of claiming what they want to claim without having to prove efficacy. It makes a big difference. No one's really held to any type of real standard.
She and the beauty bar can agree on one thing: more research is needed.
Hello, my name is Tamika Fletcher. I am the co-owner of Natural Resources Salon, and I just wanted to make a quick video just to kind of talk a little bit about the information that we've just learned about uterine fibroid tumors and relaxers. And I'm making this video not as a salon owner and not as a curl advocate, but more as a person who's just had an experience that I'd like to share with you. Now, when I first heard the information, I was very surprised to hear it, but I was also relieved to find out that someone had really done research and had really spent time trying to understand and figure out what's happening with our hair. Now, as a natural hair stylist, I knew obviously that something was happening, and it wasn't something that was happening to just a few of us. I'd have to say that we do consultations every day, and maybe about 85% of those women are making the transition to natural, not because they've just made a conscious decision, but because they've had some type of hair trauma. Each person that sits down has a very different story. Sometimes it's because of a chemical burn that they've lost hair. Sometimes it was color in conjunction with a relaxer, and sometimes it was just prolonged use or use too often. But the thing that I always knew was that relaxers could lead to hair loss. I think that's something that we all knew and at some point accepted. But I guess today I'd like to just be a little more graphic and be a little more honest about what actually does happen, because I don't think that many people know how grotesque the process can be. First, let me share my story. When I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, I had my first relaxer. But that happened because there was always this this feeling that there was something wrong with my hair. It was very thick, it was long, it was difficult to comb, it was an event every morning. Me and my mother fought just about every day. I longed for easy hair, is what I used to call it. I longed for a relaxer. My mother had a relaxer, my aunts had relaxers. Most of the women that were important to me in a big part of my life as any type of influence, they all had relaxers. And so I just wanted to be normal. And I wanted to be able to assimilate. And most of the girls my age by that time also had relaxers. But just really quick, my grandmother took care of my mother's hair until she was a teenager, and so she really didn't know what to do with my hair. So she relaxed her hair maybe about 18, 19, but she relaxed my hair much earlier because she just had no reference point on how to take care of it. Okay, moving forward. I was about 5 or 6, had my first relaxer, severe chemical burn. But my mother continued to relax my hair, I guess until I was about 17. I went to the salon pretty regularly. I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. I got the ends trimmed on a regular basis. I did the deep conditioning treatment. I did everything that I thought would make my hair healthy and that I thought would take good care of it. But what I didn't realize is that each and every time I had a chemical burn, skin was growing over and healing over the follicle holes, and so I was basically losing, great number of strands of hair each time I did that. So I'm ashamed of the part that I'm about to share with you, and this is more or less a confession for me. For years, I would get chemical burns that were almost the size of my palm. It would cover a very good part of the top of my scalp. After those burns would heal, because I just had a relaxer, of course, I don't want to wash my hair. And also because I don't want my hair to be weighed down, I won't put a lot of oil in it. And so really I have a second or third degree burn that I'm not treating properly. And so I'm afraid to admit how many years I did this before I just took control of my hair situation and realized that something was definitely happening. But I guess I realized that I was losing strands of hair. I knew that my scalp was severely burned and it was uncomfortable, but I did not know that that could be possibly the reason why I've always suffered with uterine fibroids ever since I've had a cycle. Ever since I've had my very first cycle. And that could be because I had a relaxer before my first cycle. So when I first heard the information about the fibroid tumors, not because I'm a curl advocate, but because I've suffered from fibroids for so long, I wanted to know if this is possible. Is it possible that this is the reason why I've been to so many doctors and I've never been able to figure out what's happening? I'm not going to say that that's definitely it, but I will share a story with you. I guess I had to be about 15 years old. I had been relaxing from maybe 5 or 6 up to that point. And I remember my stylist putting on a relaxer, and I said to Shirley, my scalp is really burning, Shirley. And Shirley told me, as usual, beauty suffers. Your hair is not straight. Leave it in a few more minutes. I tried to focus on anything else. I tried to just forget that my scalp was inflamed. And so by the time she actually got there to rinse out the relaxer, I was very lightheaded. I didn't feel like myself. I felt chills all the way through my body. When she started to rinse, I could feel every bead of water. It felt like needles against my scalp as she rinsed. After she finished rinsing, I almost felt like when I stood up, I felt very dizzy and I fainted. I remember waking up in the ambulance and my mother being at the hospital before I even got there. But I'm saying all that to say that at that point, I think I probably would have realized had I had that information that possibly that was what happened to me. I couldn't still say definitely it was a lot of years ago, but all I can say for sure is that the information piqued my interest. I actually looked for the full study, but what I found lately or recently were just snippets of articles that detailed the study by Dr. Beth Terry. And what she said is that the chemical burns were actually what was making us more susceptible to harsh chemicals going into our bloodstream simply because of endocrine disrupting compounds. I said, what is an endocrine disrupting compound? Well, my endocrine system is my hormones. Those are all the things that are attached to my female parts. And so to me, I said, if something that I'm putting on my scalp every 6 weeks or maybe every 4 weeks for some of us on a regular basis that is transdermal and going into my bloodstream, and potentially the ingredients in this product are hormone disrupting compounds, then I absolutely believe that it may have had something to do with my own personal issue. I began to ask my clients, and each person that I spoke to, if they didn't have fibroids, they've had some type of reproductive system issue. And it's not every single person, but at this point, at least every 3 out of 5. That's an amazing number. And I've always thought, we don't really do anything that other women don't do, yet we have breast cancer more aggressively, we have fibroids more often, and we have early puberty is something that we face in our community more often than other people. And I think that I realized several years ago that the only thing that we do disproportionately is the amount of products that we use and the type of products that we use on our hair. For the most part, women use the same deodorants, the same perfumes, the same toothpaste. The only thing that we truly do differently are the things that we put in our hair. And so for me, I just want to ask people that are experiencing uterine fibroid tumors, if you would just stop and ask yourself if this is a possibility. Not to say that it's the only possibility, but I think that once we have information, then we should become responsible for it. I'm absolutely not against relaxers. I am a curl advocate because I've worn my own hair natural for 15 years. But I will say that all I want to do is to be able to share facts. to share facts about what my clients have told me about their trauma with relaxers. And, you know, at this point, I'm not really sure how to feel. I don't want to assume that all of us that have uterine fibroids are because we've had a relaxer. But I do know that 90% of us, or 75, a good 75 to 90% of us, at some point have relaxed our hair. And a lot of us do suffer with uterine fibroid tumors, breast cancer, early puberty, a lot of the things, heart disease, that have been associated with endocrine disrupting compounds and how they affect us. And so I really just wanted to say that I definitely have experienced it personally. Don't want to say that I'm against relaxers, because that's not the case, but just to say that this information is important, that we should think about before we relax our children, what we're actually doing, and spend more time researching, because there are several chemicals that we use on a daily basis, and so any place and any time we can cut back, it's important. But once you find out that there is even a possibility that you may cause your daughter early puberty because of a product, is it really worth it?